The 2021 MLB season is here, and although the seats may not be full, your bankroll has the chance to be. Greg Hoops Peterson has you covered for every game, every day this season, along with comprehensive analysis and angles for getting to the window while celebrating the walk-off winners and blown saves of what will be a wild season. Now it is time for the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson.
A warmer for Levo, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Got a great show for you guys. We're going to be joined by Andrew Caley of Covers in the second segment. He does a terrific job looking at a little bit of everything. He's getting gassed up for the college football season. He's been doing some solid work over there. He also does a great job on golf, but day in and day out, he looks at the MLB betting board. So we're going to be asking him about everything that we're seeing for Thursday. He's also out there north of the border in Canada, so we're going to be asking about this big Blue Jays versus Yankees series as well. So we're going to have some fun there. He also gives out a bat flipping pick of the day, which is always a pick centered around a Blue Jays game. So going to have that chat in the second segment. Then in the final segment, going to give you guys sign total on every game on the betting board for this Thursday, and a little something I like to call touch 'em all. First things first, always love to be able to answer your Twitter questions on this podcast. If you got one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. Naming does not matter, so as per usual, please you send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not wind up getting in any Twitter questions today, but we had a great day of baseball on Wednesday. So let's take a look back at it. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The St. Louis Cardinals win streak has been snapped at 17, 4-0. The Brewers shut out the St. Louis Cardinals as Adrian Don't Call Me Dookie Howser wound up giving a good start. 5 scoreless innings. From there, Brent Suter, Brad Boxberger both give you a scoreless inning, and then you get 2 scoreless out of Aaron Ashby. You do want to note with the Brewers, it appears as though Devin Williams wound up fracturing something in his hand because he punched a wall after the team wound up celebrating the fact that they won the NL Central. So you got that going on, and Daniel Vogelbach was able to get a home run off of Miles Michaelis, his 9th home run of the season. Manny Pina is 13th as for Mr. Michaelis, he gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings, and then Andrew Miller gives up the other home run in his 1 1/3 innings. Jack Flaherty winds up coming in relief, scoreless inning from he and Genesis Cabrera, so had a lot going on there. Cardinals only had 3 hits. They wound up clinching the wild card, and you could tell that they wound up having some celebrations the previous night and wound up having a lot of guys out of the fold, so that was just a big giant situation there. The Blue Jays are really trying to track down the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox for one of those wild card spots. They now find themselves 1 game out of one of those wild card spots after taking down the New York Yankees by a count of 6-5 as Bo Bichette was able to go deep not once but twice in this game for Bichette. He now has home runs number 27 and 28 on the campaign. Went deep off of Garrett Cole once, went deep off of Clay Holmes the other time, and Marcus Semien wound up taking Cole deep. His 44th home run of the season. He's all of a sudden trying to catch Vlad Guerrero Jr. as for Cole gives up 5 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a pair of homers. That might wind up being the difference between he versus Robbie Ray in the Cy Young race, as Ray is going to be taking the bump today. And then from there, Jonathan Loaiza got a scoreless inning, but Clay Holmes gives up one of those home runs to Mr. Bichette. And for the Yankees, they go 2 of 7 with men in scoring position. They got to Jose Barrios as he gave up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. Tim Mazza gives up a pair of runs while getting 2 outs by Adam Simber. For outside the bullpen, and Jordan Romano, 22nd save of the season, he delivers a scoreless inning. The Cubs and the Pirates had a lot of scoreless innings, but in the end, the Cubs get the job done by a count of 3-2 as Kyle Hendricks, not a bad start here. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, and then the bullpen of Scott Efros, Rowan Wick, Cody Hoyer, Adam Morgan, all deliver scoreless innings to be able to get this one in. As for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they wound up having the MLB debut of Ronce Contreras, who winds up giving 3 scoreless innings. From there, Sam Hauer gives up a run in 2 innings. Chad Kuhl was able to give you a scoreless inning. You also got scoreless innings out of Kyle Keller along with Anthony Banda. And then for Jason Shreve, he's the man that gave it up, giving up 2 runs over the course of 2/3 of an inning. Nick Mears was able to give you an out of the bullpen. And for the Pirates, certainly has been a bad year for them as they have now lost 99 games. The Baltimore Orioles have now 107 losses as they lose to the Boston Red Sox by a count of 6-0. For the Red Sox, Anthony Eovaldi was absolutely dynamic in this one. 6 scoreless innings. Ryan Brazier, Ansel Robles, Matt Barnes, I'll give you a scoreless inning from there. And a pair of home runs were had for the Boston Red Sox. Hunter Renfroe, his 30th of the season, and it comes off of Spencer Watkins, who has giving up home runs at a very alarming pace, and then JD Martinez winds up going deep off of Zach Lawther, who was lucky to only give up 2 runs, one of which was earned over the course of 5 innings as he allowed 8 hits in this one, was really dodging bullets. And then from there, Eric Handel gives up an unearned run in his inning of work. He was hurt by a Kelvin Gutierrez there. You also had Richie Martin giving an error out there in the field. Brooks Kritzky, a scoreless inning, and then Connor Wade took his ERA from 11.42 to a 12.10 by giving up 2 runs in an inning, and Spencer Watkins gave up a bomb to raise his ERA to an 8.43 in his inning. And for Watkins, he's now given up 14 home runs and 52 in a third innings. I mean, that is right around like 2.3-ish home runs per 9 innings. It is really not going well for the New York Mets, as it looked like the Mets were going to be able to make the playoffs at one point about 2 months ago. Now they are 75-83 as they lose to the Miami Marlins by a count of 3-2. For the Fish, you were able to have a very solid start for here from Eliezer Hernandez as he winds up giving up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. And then from there, Zach Thompson, Stephen O'Kurt, along with Ryan Brazier and Dylan Floro, I'll give you scoreless innings. For the Miami Marlins, they were able to do just enough to be able to get to Taijuan Walker, who looked very solid in this one. It's been a rough ride for Taijuan Walker. He's given up something like 17 home runs in his last 12 starts, but kept the ball in the yard in this one, giving up 2 runs in 7 and a third inning. Seth Lugo from there gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, and Aaron Loop gives you a scoreless inning. But for the New York Mets, not a lot doing on offense. 9 hits, weren't able to drive them around. Story of the season for the New York Mets. The Atlanta Braves have pretty much pushed the Philadelphia Phillies out of the postseason. It's going to take a miracle for the Phillies to even force a game 163 at this point. 7-2 the final for the Phillies. 1-5 with men in scoring position, and Aaron Supernola, he wasn't super, he wasn't terrible. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, but then the bullpen completely imploded. Hector Neris, Jose Alvarado, both give you 1 out. Both give up 2 runs apiece. Sam Coonrod gave you an out of the bullpen. Connor Brogdon gives you a scoreless inning. But for the Atlanta Braves, no home runs, but they go 3 of 12 with men in scoring position. And Max Fried was terrific in this start. 2 runs given up, one of which was earned over the course of 7 innings. Tyler Matzek, Richard Rodriguez, both give you a scoreless inning. So the Philadelphia Phillies held down once again on offense. And this is an Atlanta Braves team that they have now given up 3 runs or fewer in 4 out of their last 5 games. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, oh boy, they have scored 3 runs or fewer in each out of their last 4 games. And if you're looking at 4 runs or fewer, they have scored that amount in now 11 out of their last 13 games. So the Phillies offense has failed them at the worst possible time. The Reds are done in the playoff chase as well. They wind up losing to the Chicago White Sox by a count of 6-1 as Sonny Gray gets destroyed, giving up 5 runs over the course of 4 2/3 innings, including a home run that was belted by Gavin Sheets. 11th home run of the season. Jeff Hoffman from there gives up a home run to Tim Anderson, his 17th home run of the season for Hoffman. Gives up that solo home run over the course of 2 1/3 innings, and then you wind up getting a scoreless inning out of one of the young guys for the Reds in Dori Moreta. And for the Reds, just nothing doing on offense. They've been dealing with a few injuries. You can tell that because they had guys like Lionel DeShields Jr. and Jose Barrero wind up getting the start in this one. And for the White Sox, Juan Carlos Rodon, his postseason usage was going to be based on this start, and I would say he's good to use in the postseason. 5 scoreless innings. Michael Kopech, 3 scoreless innings out of the bullpen. Mike Wright Jr. gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, and Garrett Crochet cleans up the mess, getting the final out of the game. But a good win for the White Sox, a very good win for the Kansas City Royals, and a good win for Salvador Perez. 10-5 the final as Perez now leads the league with 48 home runs. Now you do want to know, do you want to leaving this game due to an injury? Hopefully we get to see him a little bit more. Hopefully he can go for 50 home runs. It's amazing what he's doing at the catching spot. He hit that home run off of Zach Plesac, who had a rough night, giving up 5 runs over the course of 6 innings. But it wasn't as bad as the night of Nick Wickren, who comes out of the bullpen and takes his 9th loss of the season as he winds up giving up 3 runs over the course of an inning. Justin Garza gives up 2 runs in his inning of work for the Cleveland Indians. They go 3 of 11 with men in scoring position as Daniel Lynch was not long for this game. Gives up 4 runs over the course of 3 innings, but Joel Payampas had his back, giving up 1 run over the course of 2 innings. Greg Holland, 2 scoreless innings. Domingo Tapia, Scott Barlow, both give you a scoreless inning. And for the Kansas City Royals, they've actually been able to do a very good job in the starts of Daniel Lynch, as they have now went 7-3 in his last 10 starts, so they have been pretty rock solid there. The Tampa Bay Rays just continue to be rock solid. 7-0. They take down the Houston Astros as you had a pair of home runs off the bat of the Tampa Bay Rays off of Luis Garcia as G-Man Choi gets his 11th home run on the campaign, and Brandon Lau is 35th as Luis Garcia, who entered into this game right around a 2-2 home ERA, gives up 6 runs, 3 of which were earned, including both of those bombs over the course of 5 innings. And then Peter Solomon comes in for super long relief, giving up 1 run over the course of 4 innings. So he helped save the bullpen. And for the Houston Astros, their high-powered offense, just 3 hits in this one. Drew Rasmussen, now 2 runs or fewer given up in each out of his last 8 starts. 5 scoreless innings there. Luis Patino comes out of the bullpen for 2 scoreless innings. Ryan Sheriff, Lewis Head, they wind up coming in, combining for 2 scoreless innings to be able to close the door from there. The New York Post of the day went down because the Texas Rangers lost to Junk, as Jansen Junk leads the LA Angels to a 7-2 win. For Mr. Junkie, gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings, and unbeknownst to anyone, the Angels bullpen decided to actually show up in this one. Jose Quijada, Mike Myers, Steve Cishek, along with Horacio Iglesias. I'll give you a scoreless inning, and then you wind up having a pair of outs out of the bullpen from Austin Warren. For the Angels, no home runs in this one, but they do go 3 of 7 with men in scoring position as Taylor Hearn winds up giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings. Jarrell Cotton gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Mike Fultonavich now coming out of the bullpen, 2 scoreless innings, so shout out there, and Josh Shorbich gives you a inning giving up a run in the process. And for the Rangers, no home runs for them, as it's been a massive power outage for them recently. Tigers are going through a little bit of power outage as well. They wind up losing to the Minnesota Twins by a count of 5-2. Casey Mize, who is clearly on a little bit of an innings restriction, gives up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a homer. Going deep for the Minnesota Twins, one Ore Polanco in the first inning, his 32nd home run season. Meanwhile, Michael Pineda certainly was not Michael Pineda. He does wind up giving up 8 hits in his 5 2/3 innings, but just 1 run, as the Tigers go 2 of 13 with men in scoring position, stranding 11 men on base. And for the Tigers, bullpen has been relatively solid. Joe Jimenez has been a hot mess all year long. He gives up 2 runs over the course of this inning, but Kyle Funkhauser, Derek Collin, and Jason Foley, all he will give you scoreless innings out of the bullpen. And for the Minnesota Twins, in the last 30 days, they've got a top 8 bullpen with regards to ERA. Alex Colme, a big giant waste of money, while he's giving up a run in an inning, but Wamanaya gives you a scoreless inning, and Ty Duffy gives you 4 outs out of the bullpen without surrendering anything. So the Minnesota Twins have been able to do a relatively solid job recently. Speaking of doing a relatively solid job, the Colorado Rockies at home all season long have been able to do that. In a game that had a few delays in there, the Rockies get the job done by a count of 10-5, and for the Rockies, now a 48-33 home record. That is the 3rd best home record in the National League this year, behind only the San Francisco Giants and the LA Dodgers. For Paulo Espino, this was a terrible start, going 2 innings, giving up 4 runs in the process. Mason Thompson gives up 2 runs without getting it out. You wind up having Alberto Baladano give up 2 runs in a third of an inning. Andres Machado, Austin Voth were both able to give you scoreless innings, and Scott Nolan, 2 scoreless innings, but you wind up having a run in 2/3 of an inning given up by John Romano, and Eric Fetty Wap has to come in. He gives up a run in his inning. As for the Washington Nationals, they do go 5 of 16 with men in scoring position, and Juan Soto sees his on-base percentage shrink to a 467, so he's been able to do his job. For Peter Lambert, another terrible start. I have no idea why the Colorado Rockies sent this guy back. He's just a guy I don't necessarily see it with. He gives up 5 runs over the course of 2 innings, but unbeknownst to me, the Colorado Rockies bullpen actually decided to be good. Yancy Almonte, along with Ashton Gaddu, combined for 3 scoreless innings. Daniel Bard, 2 scoreless innings. Lucas Gilbreth, Ulysses Chassin, both give you a scoreless inning. And for the Colorado Rockies, Ryan McMahon gets his 23rd home run of the season. So the Rockies able to get the job done at home. This game is just going final as I'm recording this podcast, and this is one of the most laughable losses you're ever going to find. The San Diego Padres allow 4 home runs in the 8th inning to lose the LA Dodgers by a count of 11-9. Ladies and gentlemen, Emilio Pagan has pitched 8 innings here in the month of September and has given up 7 home runs. Ryan Weathers, for some reason, wound up getting the start in this one. In starts ever since the beginning of the month of July, he now has a 9.6 ERA. He lost in this one 5 runs over the course of 3 innings. Dinelson Lamet, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Tim Hill gives you a pair of outs. Then Emilio Pagan gives up 4 runs, including 3 solo shots in a third of an inning. Nabel Christmas gives up a run as he winds up allowing a home run in his third of an inning. Danny Hudson allows a run in an inning. Just absolutely terrible, as the Padres got themselves a pair of home runs. Victor Caratini goes deep off of Mad Max Scherzer, his 7th home run of the season, and Machado his 28th off of Scherzer, as Scherzer did not have it in this one. 5 2/3 innings, gives up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, including a pair of homers, as Corey Seager and Chris Taylor wind up committing fielding errors, but Justin Brule gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Pursuiter Gradwell does wind up giving up 3 runs without getting it out, but then Phil Bickford, David Price, Kenley Jansen come in for scoreless innings. And how about this home run log for the LA Dodgers? AJ Pollock, his 18th and 19th home runs of the season. Corey Seager, his 13th. Mookie Betts, his 22nd home run of the season. Max Muncy, his 36th home run of the season. Cody Bellinger, his 10th home run of the season, and the Towel Boy got his first home run of the season. So My goodness, what an absolute calamity. And they maintain pace with the San Francisco Giants, who win by a count of 1-0 over the Arizona Diamondbacks. Alex Wood was terrific in this one. 6 scoreless innings. Dominic Leon, Jarlin Garcia, Camilo Duval. I'll give you a scoreless inning for the Giants. They leave 11 men on base. They go 0-6 with men in scoring position, but Chris Bryant had a sac fly off of Noe Ramirez in the 8th inning to be able to get the W, as Noe Ramirez gives up a run in his inning of work. Taylor Widener, Taylor Clippard, both to give you a scoreless inning. And Merrill Kelly looks solid. He does wind up giving up 4 walks, but 5 scoreless innings out of him, and the Arizona Diamondbacks now have 108 losses, and it's just not going well for them in general. But the good news is, at the very least, the pitching has been a little bit better, giving up 4 runs or fewer, and now I believe 4 out of their last 6 games, as the Seattle Mariners are half a game out of the second wildcard spot in the American League. The Oakland A's wind up losing to Seattle by a count of 4-2, as the 2 runs scored by the Oakland A's, both solo shots. Seth Brown, 18th home run season, and then you wind up having Logan Gilbert, the starter, give up a home run to Tony Kemp. His 7th home run season for Gilbert. Gives up that solo home run over the course of his 5 2/3 innings. Josh Smith gives you an out of the bullpen. Diego Castillo gives up the other home run in his inning of work, but Paul Sewell, Drew's second rider, both able to give you a scoreless inning, and Abraham Toro with a big shot in the 8th inning to put the team up for good. His 11th home run of the campaign, as that winds up coming off of Submergio Romo, who winds up giving up that solo home run in his inning of work. Andrew Chafin, who's been the most reliable bullpen piece for the Oakland A's recently, an A's team that over the last 45 days has north of a 5 ERA. He gives up a run in an inning, and Frankie Montas, 2 unearned runs surrendered over the course of 6 innings. He was solid, but Tony Kemp along Josh Harrison both wind up committing fielding errors, so that squanders the fact that you wind up having Montas give up 3 runs or fewer in now the 14th out of his last 15 starts. So he was certainly able to bring it. And speaking of bringing it, you've been bringing it all year long if you've been taking a relatively good amount of favorites. 1389 and 950 overall for the year. They're hitting at a rate of 59.4%. Home teams are 1269 and 1093 overall for the year, hitting at a clip of about 53.7%. But over the last 3 days, home teams are 199 and 201, hitting at a rate of just 49.6%. If you're looking over the last 3 days, unders have a lead on overs. 194 unders, 186 overs. So hitting a little bit above 51% according to our good friends at Covers. Favorites in this time span, 226 and 171. So hitting just below 57% of the time there. Favorites overall in the last 7 days, 58 and 35, so hitting just above 62%. Home teams are seeing a little bit of a surge, going 53 and 40 in the last 7 days, and unders are hitting at a very good rate, right around 57.5% in the last 7 days at 52 and 39. If you're looking overall for the season, unders have a slight lead on overs with 1,137 unders and 1,111 overs. So right around 50.6% of games have gone under the total so far this year. So that's what we're all seeing in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we wound up seeing from Major League Baseball on Wednesday. Now let's turn the page forward to Thursday, and let's take a look at this critical Toronto Blue Jays versus New York Yankees series with our good friend Andrew Caley of Covers, who hails north of the border. So we're going to have a good chat with him on the other side right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. It is great to be joined by our guest, as this man does a terrific job over there at Covers. He has joined me quite a bit on the podcast this year, and we are pulling hard for this man because I know that his beloved Toronto Blue Jays are very much in the thick of the wild card race right now in a pivotal series with the New York Yankees. No doubt we're going to be talking a little bit about that a little bit later, as we do have Andrew Caley on the podcast. Does a great job covering the MLB, but also does a lot of work when it comes to football, when it comes to golf. List goes on, and you're able to follow him on Twitter at Covers_Caley, and that last name is spelled Caley. And Andrew, it is great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Greg. This provides a good distraction for me from the game that's going on as we speak right now. Excited to talk a little postseason baseball pushes here.
Yep, we are doing this as the Wednesday edition of Yankees versus Blue Jays is going on. And first things first, it is a little bit of a strange time, as you've got teams that, well, they are very much in the playoffs. They are pretty much set, like the Milwaukee Brewers, the St. Louis Cardinals. They know their fate being the number 2 wildcard team. And then you've got other teams like the Yankees and the Blue Jays that no doubt they're fighting it out. And then others that they have been out of it for quite a while. So you've got a lot of guys that are getting their last starts, a lot of young guys that are going out there. And how do you just wind up handicapping baseball in general this time of year? Because I do feel like it's one of the more unpredictable times because you got a lot of teams with a lot of different motivations at this point.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there, Greg. Lots of different motivations. So you really have to go through and evaluate each team on a team-by-team basis. Who is doing what? Out of people in general, in most sports, particularly maybe the NBA and football, when you're out of it, you're kind of out of it sort of thing. But baseball's a little different with all their minor league systems in these late season call-ups. I really find it interesting because all these guys, they're still working for jobs next year. They want to prove that they're major league talents. So you get teams like the Rangers or the Royals, the Marlins, like they're calling up their young guys. They're still trying hard. So I think you can actually find some value on these teams with a lot of young prospects who are trying to prove themselves. And you're going to get some elevated lines because you get a really crappy Marlins team going against the Braves or something like that. And you're going to get some really big lines. Maybe not the Braves this year because they're still in a pretty tight race with the Phillies and they're going to be giving it all. But there are situations where maybe you're going up against a team that is sort of like the Chicago White Sox, who have wrapped up their season at this point and they're just trying to set up the rotation for the playoffs, or they're just trying to get everybody healthy. There's a lot of interesting angles when betting this final week of the season.
And to your point, according to what we're seeing over there at Covers right now, favorites over the last 30 days going into Wednesday have been hitting right around 57.4% with regards to the last 30 days. Meanwhile, for the season, they have been winning more like 59.4%. So underdogs have actually been doing better the last 30 days in comparison to the rest of the season. So I do find that to be very fascinating because you always say, if a team's in the postseason race, they're playing against the Baltimore Orioles, they must win. But as we saw with the Boston Red Sox on Tuesday, that's not always the case, as you've got pride, motivation, what have you on the line for so many of these guys, as we do have Andrew Caley joining me on the podcast. And like I said, we're doing this while Garrett Cole and Jose Barrios are right now battling it out on Wednesday. But taking a look at the Thursday game between the Yankees and the Blue Jays is going to be a very intriguing one, as Corey Kluber is going to be taking the mound for the Yankees. Robbie Ray is going to be on the bump for the Blue Jays. And for Ray, he's got a lot on the line for this one because not only is he pitching to try to get the Blue Jays into the postseason, but as we know, he and Garrett Cole are in lockstep for that Cy Young Award. This might be the last start for Robbie Ray in the regular season, so it might be his last chance to be able to showcase why he deserves the award. So a lot on the line here for the Blue Jays and Ray in general, as we're finding the Blue Jays as a minus 130 to a minus 140 favorite. Taking a look at the recent form of Corey Kluber, I see no reason not to back the Blue Jays. I'm sure that you like to hear that, and I just want to get your thoughts on this because I know that you're a big fan of the Blue Jays, and this feels like a really good spot for them on Thursday.
I said this yesterday, too, the previous game. I try to take my bias out of it, and you look at that price yesterday with Ryu going up against Jameson Taillon, and the value was good. Take away the fandom sort of thing. But the baseball doesn't always go that way. So again today, this looks like pretty good value. Kluber was okay in his last start there, but he did give up a lot of hits, and the Jays did a pretty good job against him earlier in the season as well. But my Blue Jays bat flipping pick of the day is going to be, if you can find Robbie Ray outs recorded, I'd take it over anything over 18 and a half outs recorded. He's going to do everything he can to win that game. The Cy Young stuff aside, obviously he'd love to win the Cy Young, but he is very a motivated guy when it comes to winning. He wants this team to succeed, and he's going to give it his all, and he's going to be the workhorse for them in this game. He's gone over that number, I believe, over at least 6 innings pitch 8 times in his last 10 starts. He does work a lot of innings for the Jays. I like him to do it again here, and like you said, super important game. The Jays bats have been a little inconsistent down the stretch here. Obviously, Gurriel's hand getting stepped on didn't help, and Vladdy's in a bit of a slump right now as well. But now Bo's heating up, and Simeon and Springer are starting to hit. So that's the benefit that this Blue Jays team has because they are so deep.
And to your point about Robbie Ray as well, we've seen the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. They've had their, I shall say, trials and tribulations, to say the least, as well, because Julian Merriweather has come off the injured list, and he hasn't looked quite the way they did at the beginning of the year. You've got a Blue Jays team, which Adam Simber has been great for this team. He's got right around a 2.20 ERA. Even Tim Massa has been able to give you a couple innings, but Trevor Richards has been a hot mess recently. You don't necessarily have a lot of reliable arms coming out of the bullpen for this team. So I do think that it would be of the best benefit for the Blue Jays and Robbie Ray's young hopes both at the same time if he's able to go 7+.
Yeah, I think they're really going to look to ride him in this game. So yeah, Blue Jays bat flipping pick of the day. I'm betting the number will be about 17 or 18 and a half. I'd take over that number. 6 1/3 innings, I would say.
I do not blame you there. I think that that's pretty rock solid. And I'm going to be going with the exact opposite when it comes to my New York Post play today. You're backing a pitcher in Robbie Ray, which I like. I'm going to be fading a pitcher in Vince Velasquez of the San Diego Padres as they go on the road against the LA Dodgers. And it's so insane to think that the Padres are right now in danger of finishing the year below 500. Going into Wednesday, they had been 11-30 in their last 41 games. Vince Velasquez, since coming over to the San Diego Padres, a 9 ERA in his 3 starts. The Padres bullpen has just clearly been used and abused. They had the number 1 bullpen ERA going into the month of August. Ever since the beginning of the month of August, they ranked 25th with that regard. And I take a look at this total of 9, and I think that the Padres are going to be able to get a couple runs off of Tony Gonsolin. Gonsolin has been sort of like a pseudo 4-5 inning guy, and 5 innings is the absolute max for him. So I take a look at this spot, and I think runs aplenty are going to be out there in LA.
Yeah, I agree. Dodgers team total is something I'd look hard at there. Like you said, Velasquez, Padres were just throwing darts at the wall and hoping that something stuck when they were trying to fill out the rotation when they went and picked up Velasquez there, but obviously has not worked out to this point. And this is another one of these teams, the Dodgers, despite 101 or 3 or whatever wins they're at right now, they are still a couple of games back of the Giants for the NL West title. So this is a team that's still playing for something right now, a good team. I really think that the team total might be a good look here as well.
And I'm so glad that you bring up the Giants, because I think that this actually might be the most intriguing game on the board in the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants. And you take a look at the records on paper and you ask, why would you say that? Well, we know what Madison Bumgarner wound up doing with the San Francisco Giants. Do you think he would love anything more than to take down the San Francisco Giants and put their hopes of winning the National League West in peril? I think not. I think that he's going to be very motivated. And for the San Francisco Giants, they've got everything in the world to play for as well. They're going to be sending out their Scott Kazmir, which I know a lot of people are going to be chuckling, but Scott Kazmir actually pitched in the Olympics, and he looked pretty darn solid in his last start against the Padres. Now, the Padres are a dumpster fire and a half right now, but still, he wound up going 4 innings, giving up an unearned run. So I think that this is very intriguing. Only line I'm seeing right now is at DraftKings with the San Francisco Giants at minus 220. Got to figure that this line is probably going to be adjusted a little bit more once we get an actual consensus on this game. But I do think that this is a fascinating one to handicap, because you mentioned it when it comes to motivation, and I can't think of a bigger motivational spot for a team that's out of the postseason than Madison Bumgarner trying to take it to the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a total of 9 on the board for that game as well. I don't hate the under there. Bumgarner pitched well in his one start this season against his former team. I believe he went about 7 innings and gave up just 1 earned run. Bumgarner is a bit of a competitor still, and I'm sure it irks him a little bit that he's not on the team anymore. So he's going to go out there and pitch his tail off. Like you said, Kazmir, I can't believe they brought him back. I still remember him as the guy for the Devil Rays all those years ago. Now he's starting a big game for the Giants, but the Giants are backing him up with an excellent bullpen as well. So that's why I like the under 9 there.
I do not blame you there, as we do have Andrew Caley of Covers joining me on the podcast. And this is another game that we just found out the starting pitchers for this, and I can't believe what I'm seeing. You've got Shane Bieber who's going to be going out there for the Cleveland Indians. Obviously, they're just looking to get him a little bit of work before the end of the season, have him end the season on a little bit of a high note. But the Kansas City Royals are starting is very intriguing. Anel Zerpa, he is a 22-year-old from Valle de Pascua, Venezuela, and he wound up pitching most of the season at High A-Ball Quad Cities, which is out there right in between Iowa and Illinois. He wound up making 1 start for the AAA team of Omaha, wound up in 1 start, going 1 1/3 innings, getting completely tattooed, giving up a home run with a 22.25 ERA at AA ball. Now, this is AA ball, a 5.96 ERA in 13 starts. I can't think of anything other than making the Cleveland Indians a massive favorite in this spot. Shane Bieber only going a few innings or not. This is just one of these things in which I have no idea how this Zerpa guy wound up getting the start.
Yeah, I'm on board with you. We get a little taste of Bieber fever here right before the end of the season. He looked good in his limited work in his first start back off the injured list. 3 innings, struck out 3, but only used 34 pitches. I bet that they'll up his pitch count in this one a bit. I haven't heard an official number. I'm assuming they'll let him go in the 50 to 75 range in this one if they let him go there. So yeah, that makes me look really hard at the Cleveland 5-inning run line and the Kansas City under team total through the 5 innings as well. I'll be trying to bank on Bieber one last time before the season's ending here.
And allow me to put this into perspective for you. Jackson Kowar, who has been one of the best fades in all of baseball the last few weeks, according to MLB Pipeline coming into 2021, he was their number 5 prospect in the organization for the Royals. This Zerpa gentleman was number 19. So, I mean, what are we really expecting here from our good friend who's going to be making the start? I mean, hopefully for he and his family, he's able to give you a little bit of something, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. What else I think is going to be really intriguing as well is what the Tampa Bay Rays will end up doing on Thursday as well, because I was seeing Ryan Yarbrough a little bit earlier as the starter. Currently, we're seeing no listed starter for the Tampa Bay Rays, but if it winds up being Ryan Yarbrough being used in a bulk role, I actually would like the Rays a little bit more. I've done a little bit of a deep dive on stats when Yarbrough is a starter versus a reliever, and he is 25-6 in his career whenever he comes out of the bullpen. Meanwhile, as a starter, just starting the game outright, he has a losing record with an ERA a full point higher than when he winds up coming out of the bullpen. So I think that it is very important in this case to watch out if they wind up using Ryan Yarbrough as a bulk guy versus an opener, because while a lot of teams have experimented and failed miserably with the opener, it has clearly worked whenever they've used one for Yarbrough.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they're going up against the Astros right now, and I'm not sure, did they clinch the best record in the American League at this point?
I'm not sure. Need to win one more.
I think they do as well. So once again, we've got more motivations here. Yes, it's unlikely Houston catches Tampa for that best record and home field advantage throughout the postseason. But yeah, we've got another spot here where this Rays team, 97 wins, division is clinched, but they are still motivated to at least win this game. And I expect, like you said, Kevin Cash is a really smart guy. He's one of the best managers, maybe for my money, the best manager in baseball. He knows these splits just like you do. I expect him to be the bulk guy in this one as well.
I'm right there with you, as we do have Andrew Caley of Covers joining me on the podcast. And Andrew, when you take a look at the betting board for Thursday, is there anything else that's really standing out to you? We've got a little bit of a shorter slate than we did on Wednesday, but at the same time, pretty full for a Thursday, considering it's a travel day for most of these teams. And like we were talking about a little bit earlier, you've got a wide variety of motivations and a wide variety of different spots for these teams. So anything else that's really standing out to you?
As we're recording this, we don't know what fate will behold the Cardinals, but Thursday afternoon, they're sending Jay Happ to the mound, and he's been okay, not great, but going up against another okay, not great guy in Brett Anderson. I don't hate the over in that game. It's currently on the board at 9, and maybe this is the spot to finally fade the Cardinals. I know it's a bit of a faux pas to fade that streak, and I think a lot of people have tried it recently, but
I did.
This might be the spot. It's a getaway day. They'll probably be nursing a bit of a hangover from their clinching the other night still. So maybe this is finally the spot where the streak ends.
I wound up making my New York Post of the day on Tuesday, the Milwaukee Brewers, and I came out with egg on my face. So trust me, I know all about this streak, and I personally like the over as well. And another thing I really like, getting you on this podcast, Andrew, because you always do a great job with all of your work. I know that now you're doing quite a bit of foosball work over there with Covers. I know you do a great job of being able to handicap golf, which we just wound up seeing the Ryder Cup over the weekend, and that was a lot of fun as well. And I know that you do a great job of just covering a wide variety of things. So let the good people know they're able to follow you on social media and just everything that you've got going on in general.
You can follow me on Twitter at Covers_Caley. That's Caley. You can fade my college football picks. I put my best of the week. I am off to an absolutely horrendous start in college football this year. My favorite picks of the week, which I call the triple option, gets released every Thursday. And you can find them on the site and on my Twitter feed. And I will recommend that you fade me until I turn it around.
I don't do a ton of college football, but I can tell you right now, if you've been betting against my home state, Wisconsin Badgers, that has been very profitable for you thus far. I remember them laying 6.5 points against Notre Dame last week, and I'm just like, well, I don't know a ton about college football, but that looks like it's pretty well off. So that was a good one for myself, and Andrew is always reliable. When it comes to the baseball betting board, he does a terrific job. He's got the bat flip and pick of the day, which is always Blue Jays centric on his Twitter feed at Covers_Caley, and always does a great job when he joins this podcast. So big thanks to Andrew for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you a signed total on every game on the betting board for this Thursday, and a little something you like to call Touch 'em All.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Always a pleasure to be joined by our good friend Andrew Caley of Covers. Does a great job holding it down north of the border. Does a great job evaluating a little bit of everything over there. It covers how the football season's in full swing. He's doing that in and day out. He's looking at the baseball betting board. So a big thanks to him. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you a signed total on every game on the betting board for this Thursday and a little something I like to call Touch 'em all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch 'em all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at GR_1. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order, which means we're going National League games first, then the American League games. If we would have any interleague games or games that would be washed out from Wednesday, they'd be at the bottom. It looks like we are not going to have any of those, so we are going to get started with that first National League game of 901-902 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers hit the road face-off against the St. Louis Cardinals. J. Happ hopes to not be hapless for the Cards. Brett Anderson takes a bump for the Crew. The Brewers find themselves anywhere between plus 103 and plus 106. The Cardinals are between minus 113 and minus 115 with a total of 9. The unders anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The overs between minus 110 and minus 105. For Happ, he has been better ever since getting to St. Louis because everyone has been better since getting to St. Louis. A 3.97 ERA with St. Louis compared to a 6.77 with the Minnesota Twins, and in his last 16 starts with the Twins, he had north of an 80 ERA, and he's really been able to do an okay job this month ever since getting roughed up in that start against the Cincinnati Reds, in which he allowed 7 runs in an inning. Ever since then, 18 and a third innings, giving up 7 runs, so more around like a 3.5-ish ERA, so he's been halfway respectable ever since then. Has not given up a home run in any of his last 3 starts as well, so that is something that he's able to build off of, and whenever he's been in St. Louis, he has given up 4 runs or fewer in every one of his starts, and he's really given up 2 runs or fewer in all but 2 of them, giving up 3 runs to the Padres in a start as well. And then you take a look at Brett Anderson, and he's not great, he's not terrible. He did wind up getting roughed up in his last start, giving up 6 starts to these very same Cardinals, but only 2 of which was earned. He was backed up by some shoddy fielding, to say the least. But you do take a look at Brett Anderson for the year, and he's been worse on the road than he has been at home. A 4.77 road ERA compared to a home ERA that's hovering more in the neighborhood about a 3.77, and in his 13 road starts, it's only given up 5 home runs over the course of 47 innings, but opponents are hitting at 281 off of him, so very much a pitch of contact guy. You take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals, and they do have a lot of guys that are doing just a solid job of being able to move the line. You've got quite a few guys that have a batting average between, I would say, about a 255 to a 270. Now, we have been seeing Yadier Molina in and out of the fold recently in the last few days, but he, Nolan Arenado, Dylan Carlson, Tommy Edman are all in that fold. And then you got Harrison Bader hitting right around 270. Omando Sosa has been out a little bit due to injury, but Jose Rondon is hitting right around 280. And then you got Tyler O'Neill and Paul Goldschmidt. He combined 63 home runs between these 2 guys. Goldschmidt is now hitting right around a 300 for the year because he's hitting at 340 ever since the beginning of the month of July. And then you take a look at the Milwaukee Brewers, and you've got a pair of guys that are doing a good job of mashing. Eduardo Escobar along with Aviseo Garcia. Both of these guys have been able to give you right around 27 to 29 home runs. And then William Thomas, he is back in full. You want him missing the game on Tuesday for the Brewers, so you do want to be checking in on his status because whenever he's been in the lineup for the Brewers going into yesterday, team is 63 and 31. They are 31 and 32 without him, so his right around 285 batting average has been very important for this team. Jace Peterson, Lorenzo Cain, both of these guys are hitting right around a 255-ish. You've got a couple guys like Mike Pena and company that aren't doing a lot, but Omir Narvaez has been very solid. But then you take a look at the Brewers, and Devin Williams is out for the year because apparently he punched a wall, so that's just great. Colin Ria is now going to be getting some relief appearances for the Brewers, but you still have Josh Hader. You still have a guy in Miguel Sanchez that I think is going to be important, but Jake Cousins is now on the injured list. And you take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals, and they've been getting things shored up with the bullpen. Luis Garcia along TJ McFarland have been very good down the stretch. Dakota Hudson might be a super reliever for this team. Cody Whitley is someone that's able to give you some innings. So in this spot, I do think that the St. Louis Cardinals warrant being a little bit of a favorite because you now have a Brewers team that is a little bit more depleted with the bullpen. I wound up setting the Cardinals at minus 118, so it's not by much, but they are going to be a play here. And with this total, I set it at a 9.2, so going over along with the Cards. 903, 904 on the betting board. We've got no numbers up on this game as the Chicago Cubs hit the road face off against the Pittsburgh Pirates. to be determined is going to be going for the Buccos, and Justin Steele is going to be on the bump for the Cubs. I think it's probably going to be relatively close to a pick-em, depending on what the Pirates wind up throwing out there, because I would probably see someone like a Miguel Yajur wind up getting some reps here for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and whenever he's gotten starts at the big league level, hasn't been great, hasn't been terrible. He's got right around a 4.85 ERA in 3 appearances this season. He wound up making a couple appearances last year, and you take a look at him, 23-year-old, coming up through the minor league ranks. He's been very solid. He's got good plus stuff. And then you take a look at Justin Steele, and he's been able to do a relatively okay job here with the Chicago Cubs. On the road, he's got a 3.10 ERA, which is something that you're able to build off of. He's actually got a 6.07 ERA at home. The big thing is the deep ball. Overall, he's given up 12 home runs over the course of 50 innings, so that's right around 2 home runs per 9 innings. Opponents on the road hitting a .195 off of him compared to a .270 at home, and those are small sample size, so you've got to feel like both of those are going to iron out a little bit. You take a look at the Chicago Cubs team, and you got Rafael Ortega doing a good job of getting on base. He and Matt Duffy in between about a .275 to a .285, and then Frank Schwindel. He's got 8 home runs over the last 3 days. He's hitting a .335 overall. Ian Happ, Wilson Contreras, both of these guys have got 21 plus home runs. And for Happ, he's really been good ever since the beginning of the month of August. Right around 13 home runs. He's got an on-base percentage in that time span right around at .350. Nick Martinez been able to get on base, but then you got Sergio Alcantara, both of the Romines, David Bodie, Jason Hayward, whenever he's been out there. These guys are all hitting at .220 or lower. Then you take a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Yoshi Satsugo has been hitting nearly a .300 ever since coming over to the Pirates. 8 home runs in about 35 games. That's pretty rock solid. You've got Michael Chavis, who's hitting right around a .230-ish, Kevin Newman, along with Hoy Park, Martin Perez. You're able to throw in there a couple other guys like the injured Gregory Polanco and company, hitting at .225 or lower, but Pangamo has been able to right around at .245. You've been able to get something out of Kyle Moran with a .265. Then Brian Reynolds was an all-star for this team that hit nearly a 324 home runs with the Pirates bullpen. It's actually not too bad. David Bernard is back to full for the team, chasing Shreve, Kurt Strand. They're able to give you some good innings, but then when you get into Nick Mears, Chad Kuhl, these guys have not necessarily been so great. And then with the Cubs, they've had one of the worst bullpens in the big leagues recently. Cody Hoyer, immediately after being traded from the White Sox to the Cubs, was able to give you some good innings. He has recently really regressed, so it has been tough for this team. You've got a guy in Rex Brothers who, this guy's been bad, with right around a 5 ERA this year, and ever since the beginning of the month of June, more like a 7. Michael Rucker has been getting just completely trucked. Adam Morgan has been able to give you a little bit of something, but this is a spot in which, if it is someone like Miguel Yajur against Justin Steele, I'd be setting the Pirates probably at like maybe a minus 115-ish. If it winds up being a total bullpen game for the Pittsburgh Pirates, maybe you make the Cubs right around a minus 110-ish, and this is a spot in which I'm thinking that an 8.5 or lower, I'll be taking a look at the over 9 or higher to the under. But check back in the morning, but we're to feed at Aaron's 41 once we know a little bit more about what the Buccos are going to be doing. 9:05, 9:06 on the betting board. The Miami Marlins hit the road to face off against the New York Metropolitans. Tyler McGill is going to be going for the Mets. Edward Cabrera is going to be on the bump for Miami. Miami is finding themselves anywhere between plus 155 and plus 162 underdogs. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Metropolitans, it's anywhere between minus 175 and minus 180. 7.5 is your total. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The under is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. And for the Mets, what I think is going to be intriguing is if they're able to cover the run line in this spot, because I was willing to take it as long as I was getting a plus 117 or greater. So we are barely there on that with Mr. McGill. It has been an up and down season for him. He has been starting to allow runs, but I take a look at Edward Cabrera and I'm just not really impressed with him. He's given up at least 3 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. He hasn't necessarily given up the deep ball a lot, but he's given up at least 3 walks in each out of his last 4 starts. His walks per 9 rate overall hovering right around 7. His home runs per 9 rate north of 2. He just doesn't look like someone that's set for the big leagues. Meanwhile, you take a look at McGill and he has been getting dump trucked as well, giving up at least 4 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. Had a really good run in the month of August, and then you take a look at what he's done here in the month of September, and he's got a 7.20 ERA, and really since the beginning of the month of August, he's got like a 6.75 ERA. And then you take a look at the bets, say you've been able to get some good innings out of a few of these guys. Seth Lugo's been able to do a good job. Aaron Loop is someone that I do like as well. Miguel Castro has been regressing a little bit along Trevor May, but these guys have still been relatively solid. You got a pair of guys with 30 plus home runs in Pete Alonso, Avi Baez. These two gentlemen, along Jonathan Villar, owing between about a 253 to a 270. Dom Smith has been able to give you a little bit of something. He, along with Jeff McNeil, in between about a 240 to a 255. And you got Brandon Nimmo and his 300 batting average back at the fold. And then you take a look at the Miami Marlins. And got a pair of guys doing a very solid job of hitting right around 250 with 14 plus home runs in Jesus Sanchez along Jazz Chisholm. And for Sanchez, he's really been able to emerge over the last 30 days as he's been able to give this team 9 home runs in those last 30 days. Been doing a good job of being able to get on base, and he makes up for the fact that you've got Austin Jackson, Eddie Alvarez. You're able to throw in there someone like an Izan Diaz, hitting at the Mendoza line of a 200 or lower. Lewis Brinson hitting right around 225. I will say Brian De La Cruz hitting right around 300, but you take a look at him ever since coming off the injured list, and has been a little bit rough for him ever since coming off the injured list. Has been hitting right around the Mendoza line of a 200, but for the Miami Marlins, the bullpen has been very good for this team. Stephen O'Kurt has right around a 2 ERA. Dylan Floro has been able to give you some good innings. Richard Blyer has right around a 3-ish ERA. Anthony Bender, a sub-3 ERA, so got a little bit of something going on there. To be able to take a shot on the fish, I would need more like a plus 170, which we just haven't gotten there, so I'm going to be taking a look at the run line of the Metropolitans in the spot. I set the total north of 8, so going to be going over along with the Mets on the run line. 907, 908 on the bank board. The Philadelphia Phillies hit the road face-off against the Atlanta Braves. Ian Anderson is going to be going for the Bravos, and you've got Kyle Gibson on the bump for Philadelphia. The Phillies are finding themselves as an underdog of anywhere between plus 130 and plus 135 with the Braves, and between minus 145 and minus 150 is your price. 8 to 8.5 is your total. On the 8.5, under is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even to minus 105. On the 8, over is minus 120. The under is even. For Anderson, it certainly has been a little bit of an up and down year for him, but he has been able to come off the injured list and has been relatively solid. And for Kyle Gibson, this is someone that has not pitched the same on the road as he has at home. When he's been in Philadelphia and Arlington towards the beginning of the year with the Texas Rangers, 2.81 ERA in those environments. On the road, a 4.29 ERA, giving up just 8 home runs in 94 and a third innings, so he's been able to keep that down. Problem is, on the road, he gives up nearly 3.7 walks per 9 innings. Ian Anderson has a little bit of a command issue as well. This is someone that's giving out right around 4 walks per 9 innings, but you take a look at it, 2 runs or fewer given up in now 3 out of his last 5 starts ever since coming off the injured list, so that's good. The bad has been the fact that he's given up 6 home runs in his last 4 starts. He hasn't necessarily went up against great teams. The San Francisco Giants on the road is tough, but Miami Marlins, Colorado Rockies, Arizona Diamondbacks, so that is a little bit of an issue, but he's backed up by a bullpen that has been able to do a very solid job. Tyler Matzek, able to give you some very good innings. I do like the fact that Richard Rodriguez, ever since he's come over to the Atlanta Braves, has really been able to produce for this bunch with right around a 2.6 ERA. Jacob Webb has actually been able to give you some surprising innings along Luke Jackson, and then you take a look at this Philadelphia Phillies bullpen, and I don't have a lot of faith in these guys. You've got Cam Bedrosian, who has been terrible all year long, no matter where he's been. You've got Kyle Doy, who apparently is supposed to give the team innings. Bailey Falter, I see a lot of falters with him. You've currently got Archie Bradley on the injured list, and then you take a look at the Philadelphia Phillies, and right now the lineup is being absolutely carried by Bryce Harper. I mean, Bryce Harper, ever since the beginning of the month of August, has been magnificent. He has given the team 18 home runs, and in that time span, he's hitting right around at 335. Someone else help this man out, because you got nobody else really producing. You had Andrew McCutchen with 25 home runs, but he, Didi Gregorius, Brad Miller, all hitting a 230 or lower for this team. Odubel Herrera, over the last 3 days, has been hitting right around 275. He and JT Realmuto for the year, hitting between about a 262 and 270, and Gene Segura is hitting about a 295, but you need someone like Freddie Galvis, Ronald Torreyes to be able to step up for this team. Then with the Atlanta Braves, you've got a quadrant of guys with at least 30 home runs. Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, Austin Riley, along with Adam Duvall, and with Freeman along with Riley, both of these guys are hitting right around 300. Eddie Rosario is hitting at 260 for this bunch. James B. Swanson, 27 home runs, 245 batting average. Jorge Soler, 25 bombs with the Atlanta Braves, hitting right around 260. So I do feel like the Atlanta Braves should be a pretty sizable favorite. I set them on the money line more around about a minus 142-ish. If you're taking a look at the run line, you're able to get this at right around a plus 135. I'm seeing as bad as a plus 130, seeing as good as a plus 137. I was willing to take this at pretty much a plus 135 or greater, so this falls right in line with my number. I am going to be taking a look at this total over, as I wound up making this to where a plus 135 or greater would allow me to take a shot there. So we're going to be going with the Braves on the run line, set this total at an 8.7 as well, so we're going to be taking the over along with that run line. And a 9-9-10 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks hit the road to face off against the San Francisco Giants. Scott Kazmir is going to be going for the Yankees. Madison Bumgarner is going to be going for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Currently no numbers up on this game because Kazmir was just announced as a starter as I wound up coming on this podcast, but I wound up sending the Giants in this spot as a minus 221 favorite, and I made this total at 8.8. So an 8.5 or lower, I'm going to be taking a look at the over, and 9 or higher to the under. And when it comes to the Giants, you got to figure that Kazmir is probably going to be a guy that gives you 3-4 innings, something in that neighborhood, and then he winds up giving away to a bullpen that has been number one in the big leagues with regards to ERA. They have been incredibly impressive, and you take a look at Kazmir, and if memory serves me correct, he actually wound up missing quite a bit of time this year because he was actually pitching in the Olympics. He wound up making his last appearance on the 22nd, in which he wound up going 4 innings, gave up an unearned run against the San Diego Padres, and actually hasn't been terrible for this bunch with right around a 4-ish ERA. Certainly not a guy at his advanced age of 37 that's going to be getting a whole bunch of swings and misses, but he's been able to do a relatively solid job of not giving out a lot of walks, is getting taken deep quite a bit, 3 home runs in 11 innings, but the good news is he faces off against an Arizona Diamondbacks bunch of which you've got nobody with more than 13 home runs in the fold. Carson Kelly, Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte are both there. I will say Dalton Varsho over the last 3 days, he's been able to right around at 280. He's got 11 home runs overall for the year. You've got a couple other guys like a Josh Ross who's hitting right around 260 with 11 home runs, so he's been able to give you a little bit of something, but you take a look at the lineup that they wanted trotting out there on Wednesday. You had one guy in the lineup with north of a 247 batting average, and that would be Ketel Marte, and you had pretty much Marte, Dalton Varsho, and Carson Kelly with the only guys with more than 9 home runs. It's just pitiful. Meanwhile, you take a look at the San Francisco Giants, and you've got Chris Bryant, Brandon Crawford, along with Buster Posey, Mike Yastrzemski, Lamonte Wade. The list goes on and on of guys that have at least 18 home runs for this team. Brandon Belt is currently out of the fold, but Evan Longoria takes his place. He's been able to get a home run every, I would say, about 17 or so at bats. He's sitting at 280. Donovan Solano is also back. He's sitting at 280. And then you just take a look at this Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, and it is putrid. You've got Tyler Clippard, who's able to give you a couple innings, but now you're looking at Luis Frias and his 6.75 ERA to help you out. Noah Ramirez, I will give him credit. He's got a 3 ERA. He's been halfway decent for this team. Brett DeGuice has been absolutely terrible, though. Then you take a look at Madison Bumgarner, and when he first came off the injured list, he was lending a bunch of really good starts for this team. He's now given up at least 3 runs in 5 out of his last 6 starts. He's just given up the deep ball. 7 home runs given up in 24 innings here in the month of September with a 5.63 ERA. I do think that the Giants are going to be out to try to get him now. Obviously, Bumgarner has revenge on his mind as well with how much he wanted to do him for the San Francisco Giants. But with that said, even if Bumgarner gives a good start, he's backed up by an absolutely pitiful bullpen. I'm willing to lay about a minus 130 on the run line with the Giants. Set them as a minus 221 on the money line. And like I said, 8.5 or lower to the over is where I'm looking, and 9 or higher to the under. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board is my New York Post play of the day, as you've got the Slam Diego Padres in the road face-off against the LA Dodgers. Tony Gonsolin is going to be going for the Dodgers. Vince Velasquez is going to be on the bump for the Padres. Padres are anywhere between plus $2 and plus $2.15. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the Dodgers, it's anywhere between minus 235 and minus 250. 9 is your total, with the over and under both at minus 110, and that's where we're looking for the New York Post play of the day. We're looking at the over. You take a look at the San Diego Padres with their bullpen coming into the month of August. They were number 1 in the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA ever since the middle of August. So we went August 15th on, last 45 days. They ranked 26th in the league with regards to bullpen ERA, and, well, they're going to have to be used up quite a bit because Mr. Vince Velasquez has made 3 appearances with the San Diego Padres. He has given up 3 home runs over the course of 8 innings, and he's got a 9 ERA. Congratulations on being absolutely terrible. And then you take a look at Tony Gonsolin, and you can't expect a lot of length here. Now, with the Dodgers, they actually do have the second best bullpen ERA in the big leagues, but with Gonsolin, he has went 5 innings or fewer in every one of his starts so far this year. And for that matter, he has went north of 4 innings just 3 times across his appearances so far this year, so that's not been great across 14 total appearances. Now, I will say, he's not a guy that's necessarily giving up a bunch of runs. He's got a 3 ERA. He has given up 3 runs or fewer every single time that he's taken them out, so he's been able to do a solid job there. I will say, though, the walks per 9 rate, that hovers right around 5, and then you've got a Dodgers team that leads the National League with regards to runs per game at a little bit north of 5, and you've got all these guys with at least 20 home runs in the fold for this team. Chris Taylor, Max Muncy, Trey Turner down for what? Justin Turner down for what? Mookie Betts, Will Smith, and then you've got AJ Pollock with 17 home runs, and all these guys aside from Muncy are really hitting at 255 or greater. Their worst batting average in the fold yesterday with regards to their starting lineup aside from Mad Max Scherzer, that'd be Gavin Lux at a 244. Then you take a look at the San Diego Padres, and still have a little bit of pop in this lineup as well. Fernando Tatis Jr. wound up being out of the fold yesterday, but you got Jay Cronenworth along with Eric Hosmer, Manny Machado, only between a 272, 278 with Machado 27 home runs, north of 100 RBI, Cronenworth 21 bombs. Adam Frazier, ever since coming over to San Diego, hitting right around 275 himself. Trent Grisham, Tommy Pham, these two guys are hitting between about a 230 to 240. Their on-base percentages are hovering right around 340. Drickson Profar is just below that with regards to batting average, but still getting on base for you as well. You just take a look at it, though, with the Dodgers. I do think that you're going to see a little bit of regression with this bullpen as well. You do have Bersuter Gratterall is really coming on. I don't think that that's a flash in the pan, but Phil Bickford, Justin Brule, Alex Vesia, these guys all have sub 3.5 ERAs. I do think that they're going to see a little bit of sinkage, so I did wind up saying this total at a 9.6, so I'm going to be taking a look at the over with the Dodgers. I set them as a minus 234 on the money line. If you're taking a look at the run line, you're finding them right around a minus 120 to a minus 125. I was willing to lay more like a minus 135 to a minus 140, so I'm going to take the Dodgers on the run line, along with my New York Post for the day, which is the over. 913, 914 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers play OC LA Angels, as you've got Alex Cobb going for the Angels. Glenn Otto is going to be on the bump for the Rangers. Draw this game is 9. Under is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 130. Over is anywhere between plus 110 and minus 105 with the Angels. Lying anywhere between minus 129 and minus 135. Plus price here with Texas is anywhere between plus 115 and plus 123. Alex Cobb has been able to do a very solid job whenever he's been at home so far this year. On the road, it has been a significantly different story. As you take a look at Cobb at his road starts, a 4.99 ERA compared to a 2.22 at home, and 9 road starts. He's only given up 1 home run in 39 and 2/3 innings, but opponents starting at 281 off of him compared to a $192 at home. So that has been something that has been really glaring. Now, I will say for Alex Cobb, his strikeouts per 9 rate is north of 9 for the first time in his career. But then you take a look at Glenn Otto, and he wound up having a couple good starts to begin his career. He then wound up giving up a combined 15 runs in 2 starts against the Astros and the Oakland A's. I think that was a little bit of an outlier. Rebounded in his last start, giving up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings against the Baltimore Orioles. I think that he's somewhere in between. I don't think that he's as bad as his 8.02 ERA. I don't think that he's as good as his first 2 starts where he wound up giving up like a combined 1 run. So I think that he probably gives you something like 5 innings, giving up 3 runs. And in my opinion, that might be enough for this Texas Rangers bullpen. As you take a look at it, Dennis Santana has been able to come on a little bit recently. I really like what I'm seeing out of Jarrell Cotton. A 0.64 ERA in his last 14 innings across 30 days. So he's been able to do a nice job there. Drew Anderson has been good in long relief. Joe Barlow's been able to give you some good innings. Spencer Penn has been rock solid along with Brett Martin. And then you take a look at this Angels bullpen, and it is a hot mess. Rossi Iglesias is a tremendous closer, but you need to be able to get him the ball. Andrew wants his season back. He's got north of a 5 ERA. Steve Cishek is able to give you a little bit of something, but Jonathan Diaz is someone that I don't necessarily have a lot of faith in. James Hoyt is someone with an ERA that hovers right around at 6.75. Oliver Ortega is a hot mess. And then you take a look at this Angels lineup, and it's just not good at this point. Shohei Ohtani, ever since July 28th, he's hitting nearly at 200. You've got out there Jack Mayfield along with Luis Renifo. Both of these guys hitting a sub 220. You've got a guy in Jared Walsh who's only been able to give you right around 6 home runs since the All-Star break. Overall hitting at 270, and you've got Phil Gosselin hitting more like a 265, which adds a little bit of something. But David Fletcher, ever since the beginning of the month of August, is hitting like a 220. And then you take a look at the Texas Rangers, and Adolis Garcia has 30 home runs overall this year. Only 3 have come in the last 30 days. So you've got Isaiah Caner-Falefa along with Willie Calhoun. You're able to throw in there Nate Lowe and Endy Ibanez, all in between about a 260 to a 275. So they've been able to produce for you. Now you've got Brock Holt, Leody Taveras, a couple other guys that are just absolute slugs in this lineup. But I do take a look at this spot, and I felt like Cobb should have been a very slight favorite. I was willing to take the Rangers as long as I was getting north of a plus 120, and we have been able to get there. And when it comes to this total, wound up setting it at an 8.3, just because I don't think that either of these offenses, because they are the 2 lowest scoring teams in the big leagues ever since the All-Star break, going to get much generated. So going under along with the Rangers. 9:15, 9:16 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be playing us to the Boston Red Sox. Nick Pivetta is going to be going for the Sox. Meanwhile, Alexander Wells is going to be on the bump for the Orioles. Your total on this game is 10, over and under, both at minus 110. The Red Sox are anywhere between minus 215 and minus 235. Plus 192, plus 201 is your price on the Orioles. And here's a spoiler, I'm not going to be going with the Baltimore Orioles in this spot. I take a look at Nick Pivetta, and he's actually been much better on the road than he has been at home. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but he's got a 5.40 home ERA, a 3.67 road ERA, given up 6 home runs in 76 innings on the road, 17 bombs in 73 and a third innings when he's at home, and opponents starting at 209 off of him on the road. Meanwhile, you take a look at Wells, and he's actually put together together a couple decent starts, but he's now given up at least 3 runs at each out of his last 3 starts. And he's just given up the deep ball as well. He has now given up 5 bombs over the course of his last 3 starts. He is not a guy that's giving you any swings and misses whatsoever. His strikeouts per 9 rate is right around a 5.5. At home, he's got a 7.07 ERA, giving up 5 home runs in 14 innings. It is just absolutely deplorable. And he's backed up by a bullpen that they are also absolutely deplorable, as you've got a man with a north of 9 ERA in Michael Baumann. It seems like they have taken him off the roster because he stunk so bad. Spencer Watkins is north of an 8 ERA. Connor Wade has an 11 ERA. I mean, you just take a look at these guys, and they are terrible. Cole Sulzer is the only guy that's giving you innings right now in this bullpen. And then you take a look at the Boston Red Sox out of Kazuhisa Mota. He's been able to do a good job for this team. They're still without Garrett Whitlock, but you've been able to get some good innings out of Matt Barnes ever since he's come off the COVID IL. Garrett Richards has been able to do a solid job out of the bullpen. Ansel Robles had a really bad start to his Red Sox career. He's been able to pick it up, and then you just take a look at this lineup, and you've got a whole bunch of mashers that are all doing a good job of being able to reach base. Hunter Renfroe, along with Kyle Schwarber, pair of guys in between about a 262 270 with 29 plus home runs apiece. JD Martinez has 28 bombs. He's hitting at 285. Xander Bogaerts, he's hitting right around 295. He's went deep 23 times. You've got Rafael Devers with north of 100 RBI, 35 bombs, hitting at 275. You've got someone in Alex Verdugo who's hitting at 290. Jose Iglesias, Christian Vasquez, both of these guys hitting between a 262 and 270. Kike Hernandez has really been able to pick it up recently. You take a look at him whenever he's been out there over the last 3 days, and he's been able to give you a tad bit of something over the last 15 days, a 350 on-base percentage. And you take a look at the Baltimore Orioles, and if there is a redeeming quality with the team, it is that you do have quite a few guys getting on base for you. Pedro Severino, Anthony Santander, Trey Boo Boo Mancini, Austin the Saves Kid, Ryan Mountcastle, all giving you a batting average between about a 243 to a 260, with Mountcastle throwing their Cedric Mullins, both of these guys, between 30 and 32 home runs, and Hayes and Boom Boom Mancini between 20 and 23 home runs. But then you got Domingo Leyba, Pat Faleka, Austin Wins. You're able to throw in there Ryan McKenna. List goes on and on of guys that are hitting a 210 or lower. DJ Stewart along with Kelvin Gutierrez. So it's just a really rough situation for the Orioles. I wound up setting this total at 10.7 personally, so I'm going to be taking a look at this total over, and I'm going to be taking the run line of the Boston Red Sox. I'm seeing that at right around a minus 135 to a minus 145, and I wound up setting this as a minus 153 personally. 917, 918 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are in Toronto to face off against the Blue Jays, as Robbie Ray is going to be going for the Jays, and Corey Kluber on the mound for the Yankees. The total on this game is 8.5. Over and under anywhere between minus 105, minus 115. If you're taking a look at the Yankees game between plus 115 and plus 124. Meanwhile, with the Jays, anywhere between minus 130 and minus 135. I do feel like this is pretty solid value here on the Jays. I set them north of minus 150 because with Robbie Ray, as we were talking about with Andrew, I think that he's going to be logging a bunch of innings in this one now. His home runs per 9 rate is right around about a 1.4 this year, but you take a look at what he's done at home, and he's been mowing them down. 228 ERA, in 3 record. Opponents starting a $1.94 off of him, and he's given up 3 runs or fewer, and now 19 out of his last 20 starts. And then you contrast that with Mr. Corey Kluber, who's given up at least 3 runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts ever since coming off the injured list. He has exceeded 4 1/3 innings just once, so that means that a bullpen that has been used quite a bit recently is going to get even more use. His walks per 9 rate is hovering right around about a 3.8-ish, and then you just take a look at this Blue Jays lineup. You've got a lot of guys who are able to mash. We were talking about it with Lourdes Gurriel having his hand stepped on, but you take a look at him over the last 3 days, he's hitting nearly a 350. He has been absolutely insane. George Springer seems to be finding it as well. Marcus Semien might wind up catching Vlad Guerrero Jr. for most home runs in the league. Both of these guys, 44 plus. Vlad Guerrero at 313. Batting average, Bo Bichette along to Oscar Hernandez. Both in between about a 290 to a 300 with both of these guys, giving you 27 plus home runs apiece. You've even had Santiago Espinal be able to get on base. And for the Yankees, you do have a trio of guys with at least 33 home runs so far this year. Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, and Joey Gallo. Now with Gallo, you're able to throw in there Kyle Higashioka, Brett Gardner, even someone like Gary Sanchez hitting at 225 or lower, but Anthony Rizzo to be able to reach base for you, Gleyber Torres, Gio Rochelle, DJ LeMahieu, in between about a 255 to 270. And then you do take a look at the Yankees, and you've had some guys really be able to emerge in the bullpen. Jonathan Loaiza is now off the injured list. That is a big addition for the team. Michael King has been able to give you a couple innings. Clay Holmes, surprisingly, has been able to do a solid job as well. You take a look at him over the last 30 days in 14 and 2/3 innings, right around a $1.25 ERA. Chad Green has been able to give you a little bit of something, but I do think that this is a spot in which Corey Kluber just not going to be able to lend the start that Robbie Ray does. So it's intriguing when it comes to this total because the Blue Jays offense has been high-powered all year long, but they're actually averaging fewer runs per game when they're at Rogers Center rather than when they've been at other places like Dunedin and Buffalo just because of the dimensions of the ballpark, so that is something that is taken into account, but I did wind up saying the sold at a 9.2. It's set the Blue Jays more around a minus 162 favorite, so going to be back in the Jays, and I'm going to be taking the over as well. We move on to 919, 920 on the betting board. Currently no numbers up on this game as the Tampa Bay Rays have third face-off against the Houston Astros. Lance McCullers Jr. is going to be going for the Astros. To be determined is going to be going for the Rays. From everything I'm deducing right now, it seems as though the Rays are just deciding whether or not to use an opener or Ryan Yarbrough himself as a starter, and if they do wind up using an opener for Ryan Yarbrough, this is a spot in which I would be setting the Astros as a favorite, but I'd be setting the Astros right around a minus 125 if Yarbrough is a starter himself, more around about a minus 115 to a minus 120 if they do wind up using an opener. I do think that it's worth 5 to 10 cents to the line if the Rays do wind up using an opener, because I was mentioning it with Andrew Caley. The splits for Yarbrough when he comes out of the bullpen versus being a starter are stark. He has a losing record as the actual starter, 25-6 when coming out of the bullpen, with a full ERA point lower when he comes out of the bullpen. If it is Yarbrough in some form or capacity going either way, an 8.5 or lower, we'd be taking a look at the over, a 9 or higher to the under. But you do take a look at this Rays bullpen, and JT Chargois did not wind up having the best of days a few days ago, but Lewis Head has been able to give you some very good innings. He's got right around 2.5 ERA. JP Fireeisen has been able to do some good things for the team. Andrew Kittredge is fresh off the injured list as well, so you've got a lot of that going on. And then you've got Lance McCullers Jr., who throughout his career has actually been much better at home than he has been on the road, but this year has been reversed, as he wound up coming into the year with about a 1.5 career better ERA at home than on the road. But so far this year, 3.54 home ERA, 2.70 road ERA. It's given up just 8 home runs at 86 and a third innings at home, but 4 bombs and 70 innings on the road. So that has been very interesting to take a look at with the Astros. You do have a pretty solid bullpen. Kendall Graveman, Ryan Presley, these guys are your mainstays, but you've also had Christian Javier be a little bit of a utility guy. Someone like Blake Taylor has been able to do a solid job for this team. And then you've got Jose Altuve, along with Yordan Alvarez, Carlos Correa, and Kyle Tucker. I'll give you at least 24 home runs. All these guys are hitting at least a 273. Michael Brantley is back to the fold. He and Yoli Gurriel both hitting above a 310. Even Jose Siri has stepped up for the team, hitting right around a 300. And then with the Rays, you got a trio of guys with at least 30 home runs apiece in Brandon Lau, Mike Zunino, and you're able to throw in there Nelson Cruz with Lau. He's hitting like a 240, but his on-base percentage more like a 335, so it has been absolutely incredible to see. You have Wander Franco, who currently has an on-base streak that is now at 43 games. It is ridiculous to watch him be able to operate. G-Man Choi is only about a 230, but he has a 350 on base, so this guy finds a way on as well. So if it winds up being Ryan Yarbrough as a starter, I'm setting the Astros as a minus 125 favorite with an opener for Yarbrough, more around minus 115 to a minus 120, and like I said, an 8.5 or lower either way. Going to be taking a look at the over 9 or higher to the under. 921, 922 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers hit the road to face off against the Minnesota Twins. Joe Ryan is going to be going for the Twins. Tarek Skubal is going to be going for the Tigres. Tigers find themselves anywhere between plus 155 and plus 165. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Twins, anywhere between minus 175 and minus 180 is your price. 8.5 to 9 is your total. On the 8.5, unders anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 120. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the over, that is anywhere between a minus 110 to a minus 120. And this is a spot at which you've got the 9 at an under of minus 130 juice and an over of plus 110. And I take a look at Tarek Skubal, and I don't think that he should be this big of an underdog. Now, you do want to note that Skubal probably going to be going between 3 and 4 innings. We've noticed that he and Casey Mize have really been on an innings restriction here in the last month, but I do take a look at Joe Ryan, and he's off to a great start to his MLB career, did a good job at the minor league level, but I need to see a little bit more from him before I'm willing to set him as this big of a favorite. In Ryan's 4 starts, he's allowed 2 runs or fewer in each out of his previous 3, wound up giving up 3 runs at his first career start, has given up 2 home runs in 22 innings. So, I mean, all very well and good, getting 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but this is a little bit too lofty, especially when you consider what Skubal's been able to do recently as well. He has given up 2 runs or fewer in each out of his last 4 starts, so I do recognize that he's went between 3 and 4 innings in every one of them, but you just take a look at what he's been able to do in the month of September, a 2.77 ERA, and he's really gotten better as the season has went along as well. He was really giving up the deep ball towards the early part of the season. He has given up a combined 7 home runs over his last 9 starts, so he's been able to rein it in a little bit more. He's backed up by a Tigers bullpen that ranks in the top 10. in ERA ever since the All-Star break. Now, you have been dealing with a couple ailments when it comes to this. Tigers bullpen, Jose Cicierno is currently out of the fold along Gregory Soto, but Drew Hutchinson has a sub-2 ERA. Michael Fulmer, Jason Foley, these guys have been able to perform very well for you. Now, Joey Jimenez is a guy that I really don't want any part of at this point, along with Jose Urena, but even someone like Ian Krall is able to give you a little bit of something. Then you take a look at the Twins, and over the last 3 days, they've got a top 7 bullpen ERA themselves. Alex Colomé has been a little bit of a waste of money, but Luke Farrell has a right around 3.5 ERA. He's been okay for the team. Juan Minaya has his ERA hovering right around 2.6. Caleb Thielbar has actually been able to do a very good job recently. He's got a .69 ERA in his last 11 appearances, so that has been rock solid. And then you take a look at the Minnesota Twins, and you do have quite a few guys that are supplying a lot of boom for you. Miguel Sano, Ore Polanco, 30-plus home runs apiece. With Sano, he's got right around 330 on base ever since the beginning of the month of August, but you take a look at and you're able to throw in there so many other guys. Andrelton Simmons, Brent Rooker, Max Kepler, Jake Cave, Ryan Jeffers, Ben Rotfit, all these guys are in a 225 or lower now. You've been able to get quite a bit of something out of Josh Donaldson, right around 350 on base, 24 home runs going into yesterday, so that's been rock solid. And for Byron Buxton, he has come off the injury list, but you take a look at him over the last 3 days, sitting like a 242. He's not been the same guy as he was at the beginning of the year. And for the Detroit Tigers, the power numbers have certainly slowed down for Robbie Grossman, along with Eric Haas and Robbie Grossman. All these guys between 21 and 24 home runs so far this year, but you've got Scope along Jamier Candelario and Aero Castro, along between about a 272 to a 285. Eric Haas needs to pick it up with his 228 batting average, but Akil Badu along with Miguel Cabrera in between about a 255 to 265. Both of these guys have right around 320 on base as well. So I do take a look at the spot, and I do feel like the Tigers should be an underdog, but I feel like they've been badly priced recently. I mean, this is a Tigers team that has an above 500 record ever since the All-Star break, and the Twins have just been disappointing. I feel like bookmakers haven't adjusted enough on them. Set this all at 8.3, so we're going to be diving under, and I was willing to take a plus 130 or greater here with the Tigers, so going to be going with that under along with the Tigers, and we wrap things up with 923, 924 on the betting board. We got the Cleveland Indians hitting the road face-off against the Kansas City Royals. Currently no numbers up on this game, as it was a little bit of a late announcement for the Royals to be going with Anel Zerpa. Meanwhile, Shane Bieber fever is going to be on the bump for the Indians. I set the Indians as a minus 188 favorite. I'm willing to lay up to about a minus 125 on the run line. I just take a look at Mr. Zerpa, and I have absolutely no idea why he's getting the call in this one. MLB Pipeline, about a few months ago, wound up ranking Mr. Zerpa as their number 19 prospect in the organization. You take a look at him, and he spent most of his season at high A-plus Quad Cities. He wound up at AA Northwest Arkansas, making 13 starts. He had a .596 ERA there, giving up nearly 4 walks per 9 innings, a home run and a half per 9. He's got some good stuff, but when you've got a 1.54 whip at AA ball, you wind up making one start at the AAA level, and you get rocked in that one. I mean, what am I supposed to make out of this guy? And then you got Shane Bieber, who I recognize is not necessarily going to be going long in this start. It's probably going to be a case in which you wind up giving Shane Bieber 3-4 innings. It's just a little bit of a way to build up his confidence. You take a look at his last start against the White Sox, 3 scoreless innings. I expect a lot more of the same there, but he's backed up by a relatively solid bullpen. Emmanuel Clase to be able to get the job done night in and night out. Blake Parker has a sub-3 ERA. You've been able to get some good innings out of someone like a Brian Shaw. Anthony Gose is someone that they've been looking to a little bit. He's got a 2 ERA ever since he wound up getting the call up to the big league, so give him a little bit of credit. And then you've got a Royals team that they themselves have a top 10 bullpen ERA ever since the All-Star break. You've been able to get some good innings out of someone like a Domingo Tapia. Josh Shamount has been very good for this team. You've got Tyler Zuber, has been a little bit of a fade, but Scott Barlow, Jake Brentz, these guys have been able to do a solid job as well. And for the Kansas City Royals, you do have a man in Salvador Perez who is really looking for that home run title. He goes deep again yesterday. He's got 48 on the campaign with 121 RBI. I know that we're all talking about Flagler or Jr. being perhaps worthy of the MVP. Why don't we mention Salvador Perez? I'm just saying. I know that might ruffle a couple feathers, but you take a look at it. He, Kyle Isbell, Andrew Benintendi, alongside with Merrifield, lying between about a 272 to 282, and Alberto hitting right around 270 himself. And then you've got Nicky Lopez hitting above a 300, so got some good bats there. Then you take a look at the Cleveland Indians. Pair of guys that have north of 30 home runs so far this year. Franmil Reyes, along with Jose Ramirez, Fred Ramirez, 36 bombs. You take a look at both of these guys, you're able to also throw in their Miles Straw. These guys are in between about a 255 to a 275. Ramirez, he's hitting a 265 himself. But you do have a couple guys that they do need to pick it up in this lineup, Austin Hedges and Owen Miller, both hitting below a 210. Oscar Mercado, Bobby Bradley, Yu Chang hitting between about a 210 to 230 themselves. But I do take a look at this spot, and I just think that we are seeing a situation in which we're going to see a young guy, Mr. Zerpa, just get completely lit up. This is a spot in which I set the Indians as a very sizable favorite, willing to lay a minus 125 on the run line, and 9.5 for Laura. I'm going to be taking a look at the over. A 10 or higher, I'm going to be taking a look at the under. And that will wrap things up for the Baseball Betting Podcast on this Thursday. A big thanks to Andrew Caley of Covers for joining me in the last segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you've got a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @GR_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm going to be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.